She's also is super into and like creating spaces and opportunities for you to like try stuff out too. So if you ever want to like test an event or a workshop or write an article or record like whatever you want to do, like she's like, hey, just do it for Rosieland. So like I think that's really cool and special about it is that like she really creates the space and opportunity for us as community builders to like test things before we would ever launch something live or with a bigger audience or group. And I don't think enough people take advantage of that. And so I think that's a really special thing.
Welcome to Community Dissection, where we dissect online communities to give you an inside look at community design, architecture, and evolution. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Community Dissection. I'm your host, Leever, and on today's episode, I have with me a return guest, Max Pete. Max, you want to introduce yourself and tell us where you recently landed and where people can find you?
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. My name is Max. I just signed an offer this week to join Square as their community engagement program manager, which I'm really excited about. And I'm based in San Diego, and I'm looking forward to diving into this community.
Awesome. I immediately thought of Max when I knew I wanted to dissect the Rosieland empire. That's the only appropriate term. I know Max has been super involved with the community. I've kind of dipped in and out of what Rosie has been doing. And so I really wanted to, and I think we've both followed the Rosieland housing scenario, like where to find the things for the past couple of years. And I've really appreciated how Rosie has taken time to test the right home for her community programs and has really tested a variety of different tools and platforms. So I'm excited to get to talk about that together. And I think, and we'd have to get Rosie on here to do a second episode with an interview. So this will not be the last time you hear me say that on this episode, but it appears that the new kind of all-encompassing home is going to be hosted on Superwave. So I'm really excited to show how that migration has looked and what it looks like today. Let's dive right in. But first, if this is the first episode that you're joining, we have dissected dozens of communities. So hit subscribe and follow along the playlist. Take a look at some of the other communities we've dissected because we have so many. And I like to say, let's learn from what they didn't do totally great. And let's replicate what you see in communities that you love. This is one of the best ways that community builders can continue to iterate and improve their community is noticing what other people are doing. So we hope to make that even easier with this series. But let's dive right in. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what Rosieland looks like. When you type in Rosieland, this is what you will come to. And so the draw here is the newsletter. And as we go down, I think you get a pretty clear idea right off the bat that this is there's learning, there's a knowledge base, sponsors. So it kind of, to me, I would assume as a new member, you'd assume that this is like a space for learning about community, but also it has a community.
And she also just redid the tagline, like how can we build better communities? I forget what it was before, but I remember her posting somewhere that like she showed what it was and like that this is a new one, the new tagline, call to action that she's testing out.
Oh, awesome. We are on a quest to learn and explore what makes great communities. And that feels very also on brand for Rosie. I know she founded the Ministry of Testing Community, which we also dissected in this season. So we'll link to that in this episode. But let's just scroll down a little bit here. So we move right into essentially like a blog or host of content. And is this on Ghost? I think this might be hosted on Ghost.
I think it is on Ghost, yeah.
Yeah. So Ghost is sort of like the landing page and a lot of free content Rosie puts out. I think I struggled to do this, and it's what I appreciate so much about how Rosie has approached community building. She really does go to where people are, like whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, all the social channels, free content online. There used to be also a discourse. I know she was testing out like a discourse forum for Rosieland to like host conversations for community. I think over the last couple of years, my assumption is she's been kind of testing out where is the best place to reach people. And I tend to get really like, I don't want to do all the work to go to where
Mhm.
people are. I would rather focus on gathering them to me. But Rosie really does both. She sets the space for an intimate, exclusive community, but she's really good at reaching out beyond that community to bring people into that experience and connecting what's happening inside of the community to all of the external channels. Max, I don't know if you have
Yeah.
anything to add to that or
Yeah,
what
no,
you've seen.
she's really good at like the community ecosystem and just like owning it. Like you said, doing LinkedIn lives, doing things in her own community platform to testing a new platform comes idea or comes around or event platform comes around. She's like, oh, let's test it. Let's try it out. So she's really good at just like, and then on Twitter, she's very active there too. So it's just like she meets people where they are and she's not afraid to try new things, which I think is exciting because a lot of times people will just like wait and see if that thing works and then they'll jump onto it. And she's just like, no, let's experiment.
That's exactly right. And that is what she did with Superwave. So Superwave came out of Hopin, and they are a brand new all-in-one platform. And it seems like an amazing platform, but I think a lot of people would be exactly like you said, hesitant to dive into a brand new product. I'm sure that the Hopin team was also probably talking with Rosie and maybe building it according to what she wanted
Mm-hmm.
would be my guess on some way on some level. But let's dive into this community space because this is where a lot of the conversation events and I think the content is also slowly migrating to this space as well. So I'd love to kind of walk through this a little bit. And Max, maybe even have you kind of prompt spaces that you like and tell us
Yeah.
like what you love about this community space. Yeah, would you kind of kick things off for us?
Yeah. So for my favorite space, if you go on the left hand side, there's a channel called Woos and Whoopsies. It's just a place for members to celebrate their wins and to also talk about mistakes or failures or things that didn't go exactly as planned. And I think it's just a really good channel for members to just be vulnerable, to share, what's going on in their life. People are just really supportive in the community on that channel too. It's something I check on a regular basis, and it's just nice to see that what people are up to. I shared when I got the job offer, and yeah, it's just a really cool place. And it's nice because it's like a safe space where people feel comfortable with sharing, which I think is important in community.
Yeah, I really like the kind of vulnerability of adding whoopsies into the celebration channel. A lot of times you'll see like wins or celebrations or like Bragasaurus, but I really like how she incorporated whoopsies into the same space because I think it does just that. It opens up people to some of that vulnerability. And if maybe you didn't have a strong win this week, but you can share something that was a little bit harder or both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really nice design choice. Oh, okay. There's a
Yeah,
desktop
they have a new
app.
app. Yeah, I haven't
Okay.
downloaded it. They do have a new app though, and they have like a whole
Cool.
new notification system too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know they recently launched, so I'm sure there's a lot of really good stuff coming. What other space do you want to dive into next?
Glitter is like essentially the general chat type channel for Rosie has a description that's like community chat like Twitter, but sparkly rain Rosieland style. And I think that's perfectly what this is. Like people talk about events that they've done or anything in community related. If there's something that people want to share or whatever it is too, like merch ideas or anything, it's just like a general chat spot. And you never always know what you're going to find here. So I like it because it's like Rosie will drop a lot of posts here too from like tweets that she saw or just ideas or things that she's reading or thinking about. It's also slowly turning into like a co-introduction channel too. So like what Rosie did is she got rid of her intro channel and she's really encouraging other members to intro other members. So like for example, let's just say you join the community this week, like I would tag you in a post, be like, hey, everyone, you should welcome Bree. Like, she's great. This is what, X, Y, and Z. And then everyone say hi. And so she's trying to like encourage that
Oh,
behavior sprinkled in between other posts in this channel.
oh, cool. Yeah, that's some pretty next level human behavior to influence.
I
There's
know,
like a
right?
lot of coordination there. I'm really curious to hear how that how that continues and if people pick it up. Because if you can establish that as the culture, and I love how it like creates a connection right off the bat for people coming in having known someone. Do you know how she would handle it if somebody's coming in and doesn't know anybody?
I don't actually. And like honestly too, like I think this part has been a little bit slow in terms of like other people introducing one another. Like you kind of have to be like proactive and do it on your own. But what I really like about it is that it's just kind of thrown into like the general chat space. So like people can kind of come in here, they're already active because they're posting, so they kind of can see that. It's and then they can like go right into conversations with other people. I think that she's still working on like ways to get more people to introduce one another. But once once that's unlocked, it would be really cool to see that more in this channel.
Yeah, yeah. A couple things come to mind that I've seen. Like I've seen welcoming committees in communities. So like really, really low lift, you kind of volunteer to help create a warm and welcoming environment. Max Pete, you would be on my welcoming committee if I had a committee.
Thank you.
You
I'm honored for that. Yeah.
between you and Laura Zug, I feel like everyone would feel such a warm welcome. But I wonder if it kind of defeats the purpose because you want everyone to feel this like accountability for inviting and welcoming new people. But it kind of, maybe if there's like people who don't know someone in the community, then like the welcoming committee can kind of take over or take initiative. Just to have some people who've identified themselves as like, hey, if people aren't jumping in, I'll take initiative here. But I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do that at SuperHi, my last job, having a welcoming committee and just having like super users do that. And it was a lot of fun. Like people actually really like to help out.
Yeah, definitely. And it allows you to lean into certain community members' strengths. Like I don't always think that I'm the best welcoming committee. I like people, but I don't always love people.
I like that.
I love humans and humanity, but there are people like yourself and Laura who I think are just like so warm, so inviting, love people and love connecting with people. And that is such a strength. And so creating space in your community for those, like, I'd almost call them like micro leadership roles to pop up and allow people to work off of their strengths is such a great, I mean, that's like what community building's all about, right?
Yeah.
I did want to add, because this space, Superwave, I think initially took over, I think what she first migrated into Superwave was the conversation from Slack. And the Slack was pretty active and was great. I'm a part of a lot of Slack communities, but I will say like one thing that I really noticed with this migration to an all-in-one platform is how it affords more flexibility with the world building for Rosie. And I think the world building is something that I love about Rosieland. Like there's kind of two different philosophies within community building, which is like on the one end, you have like, just say what it is, no extra, don't make it fun, fun or fancy or complex. Because on the far other end, you have like a more on the side of world building. And when you commit to doing more world building in a community, you run the risk of making things more complicated and less clear, which is why a lot of people don't do it. And it is a risk, but when you can do it really well, it's also so compelling to be a part of something, to be a part of a world or a space where you feel like you can enter an experience. And that's something I know Rosie's been like committed to from day one. But the one little call out that I had here was that I loved this, like, glitter has like this little description, community chat like Twitter, but sparkly Rosieland style. And it's just great to have like that extra little description. Like I think in Slack, I was always just sort of like, I'd see a similar lineup of channels, but I'd be like, I don't really know what these are. I just sort of go in and have to like read through. So I love that there's that extra clarity and space for a description of the channel.
Yeah, like if you're not going to go for the normal channel names like chat, help, support, things like that, like having a description of it is super helpful, because I think, well, you can't have it to match your brand and like what you want to do that's different. People that like aren't used to it are just going to be like, I have no idea what glitter is, so I'm not even going to think about using that as my general chat place.
Yeah, exactly. The only design thing is I feel like I'm curious what they're going to use this right-hand toolbar for. It seems like a lot of real
It's a
estate
lot of space,
to
right?
commit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of space just for this like short description, which maybe people like use. Maybe this you can like add a whole. Maybe you can fill in the whole space with like links
I
or
think it
a
slides
thicker
out more
description.
when you're on a thread. Like when you open up a
Oh,
thread, I think that the thread slides out, kind of like yeah. But it's more like a pop out window. But yeah,
mhm.
I was 100% like agreed with you about the description just takes up. I mean, that's all that empty white space, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a lot of emptiness.
Yeah, yeah, and this is Superwave. This is a little request. It's so helpful to see the description the first time, or maybe like the first 5 times you come into a community space. But then I really wish that it kind of went away after that
Mhm.
and didn't take up any real estate. Maybe if there was like, maybe if the description was up here, like, and after 5 times of entering that channel, it like had a little, it said, it like started the description, but then it had a little, it like faded out and had a little like more button. It's super little and it's kind of nitpicky, more about like the platform than anything in Rosieland. But I'm like, it just to like help people move through an onboarding experience and making sure things are really clear up front, but not taking up unnecessary real estate once they get the picture.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Awesome. Max, is there anything you would modify about this community or the way things are set up as they are today?
Well, speaking about like onboarding, and I don't remember because I signed up early on in this community. Like I signed up before she like fully launched it, but there wasn't. I can remember there wasn't like any onboarding situation, and I think mainly it's like there's community builders, so we just automatically kind of get like what we're supposed to do type of thing. But I don't remember there being like, hey, here's a list of channels, check out this, do this, welcome type of thing. It was just more like, well, now you're here and you can figure out like what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. And especially when you do have more world building elements, I feel like helping people get oriented in your community is really
Mhm.
important. Honestly, I feel like a low hanging fruit would be to have like just a get started card here under content, which I really do like how Superwave laid this out and having this space for content and having these like cards cards this
Mhm.
card style format to host more of your content. But yeah, having just one that's like even one card here that's like get oriented in Rosieland, or like here's your map to Rosieland. There's so much like I wish, Rosie, this is my request, assuming that you're watching this. I would love, because it's like Rosie Land, you know, I think the analogy of like journeying from point A to point B through Rosie Land and like helping, it's because it's a learning and experimentation and exploration community. I feel like outlining a little bit more of a map of where people are starting and where we want to get to together, especially as the community grows, and kind of showing that pathway. Because I think there's so much good like knowledge and learning happening here. But if you don't have a clear like snapshot of what's possible in your growth within this community, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed with how much Rosie has coming out. And so maybe just like orientation for the community hub itself for this platform, but then also orientation for like, here's where you might be starting and here's where we want to take you as a community builder, and here's the destination. And I know the destination is probably ever unfolding as it is with community and exploration, but I think something like that could be really beneficial for members.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good call out and point because I'm pretty sure that every member in this community, this is their first time in Superwave. So they are kind of figuring out Superwave too. And so I think having that like get started, here's how you use the platform, here's like new updates type of thing would be really beneficial because even if you're a community builder, when you're on a new platform, like even if you're like, this is what you do for your, 9 to 5, your day job, like you're still probably going to be like, I don't know how to do this, as a member. So I'm probably not going to be involved. So it's important to like, even as a builder to keep your perspective as like, what would a member experience? And like, how can I build that to make them easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine with just how much Rosie changes kind of the landscape and is testing that I would be really hesitant to commit to like a really robust onboarding experience because
Yeah.
you're probably like, well, we can do onboarding, but it's going to change tomorrow. And maybe she has this in the plan to come soon because I know she's been migrating everything over to this space. So maybe she's waiting to do the onboarding until things are set up. And I can imagine that I'd be hesitant to like build something super robust because it probably will change the next week. But even if it's just like, okay, like a quick video or a quick like article that you can update like once a month as things change. And yeah, onboarding really, it's so tempting to like set it and forget it. But I think the nature of this community really exemplifies the value of revisiting your onboarding consistently as your community changes to make sure that members are still being fed proper information.
Yeah. That's such a good call out just in all communities in general. It's like onboarding is never done. Like no matter, even if you have the most perfect plan structure, you're going to have to revisit and edit it, and always something to keep in mind.
If you're enjoying our community dissection episodes and have a community of your own, then I invite you to download our community audit checklist. This is a quick list of things that you can go through and identify in your community that you have, are missing, or might need to be clarified. So don't wait today to improve your own community. And if you're interested in having your community dissected by me and a couple other community professionals, you can nominate your community through the form in the description. Absolutely. And it's the most infuriating part of the community experience. The second that you finish your onboarding, you like have to restart it.
You spend, hours, weeks, months on something, and then you're like, oh wait, I have to actually go back and keep editing this thing. But part of our job. So
another pillar of community programming that I love to cover is events. So I'd love to take a look here and have you tell us, Max, like what you've noticed about events from Rosieland as you've been a part of this community.
Yeah, what I like about this is that this is like she pulls in events from all over community, like different community events or conferences or things that are happening, not just in Rosieland, but like Common Room or Better Mode or led by Community Summit. Like she has a card for, and you can RCP. And so it's like really cool that like you can just go to one channel and find all the relevant upcoming events. And it doesn't necessarily just mean it's just Rosieland events. It's like all community events. And so it's a unique way to do that because, you join a lot of communities and they only promote their own events. But with this one in particular, since it's a community for community builders, it's really cool that she takes that approach of being like, no, I'm going to bring in everything. And then here's ways to like RCP and go and see who else is going from the community. And yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And I'm curious what these show up here. So we have events versus webinars versus meetings. I like that like differentiation in different categories of events and having that up here. I also noticed that with content, they have the different types of content at the top. I wonder how customizable these are, if they're all preset from Superwave, but I really like that feature because if you have run a community for a year or longer, you know how messy this organization of events, like you have so much information for people. And so being able to like, it kind of helps not constantly have to be coming up with something new every like 2 weeks when people can like easily find the information that pertains to them from the past. So I like being able to separate these out. I'm hinting at a conversation that I actually had with Shane Lennox from Superwave, but when they were developing this, I was like, nobody's thinking about this. There's no platforms like help making it easy for people to like enter this stream of content. So I think this is a step in the right direction, having this delineation here.
Yeah.
I just clicked into trending because I just want to take a look here. I do like that there's like an aggregated feed in Superwave. This is something that is missing. Circle has one, Mighty Networks has one, and Heartbeat doesn't have like an aggregated feed. So I really like this amalgamation of posts that are happening right now. If you wanted just like if you didn't want to have to click into all of these channels to figure out to get up to date, you can have it right here. I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a cool way to just like get a glimpse of everything without having to dig into all the individual channels.
Awesome. All right. Well, Max, any parting words about Rosieland or your experience as a member?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite communities to spend time in. People are just super friendly, welcoming. Rosie's always down to test something, which is great. She's also is super into and like creating spaces and opportunities for you to like try stuff out too. So if you ever want to like test an event or a workshop or write an article or record it, like whatever you wanted to do, like she's like, hey, let's do it for Rosieland. So like I think that's really cool and special about it. She really creates the space and opportunity for us as community builders to like test things before we would ever launch something live or with a bigger audience or group. And I don't think enough people take advantage of that. And so I think that's a really special thing.
Yeah, as I hear you talk about that, I'm like, dang it, I need to do more of that here with Rosieland. I'm curious because you said like everyone's really like welcoming and helpful and supportive. I'm curious if there's like any little like, whether it's design or like an interaction or like things that you've experienced in the community that you help contribute to that like vibe and culture in Rosieland.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Rosie is just done a really good job at like being an expert of modeling behavior and like designing a fun and welcoming space. Like when you go into Rosieland with the branding and the colors and like just the vision of what Rosieland is, you're never going to be there like angry. Like it's just not like the brand. It's just all welcoming and friendly and like there's no like pressure or seriousness or corporateness or anything of it. And so I think she just does a really good I think that's also a good reminder of like beyond creating a safe space for the community directly, like why brand matters, why like the colors you pick, the language you use outside of the community all helps when people come in because they kind of feel some sort of way. And so I think she just did a really good job at like creating that inclusiveness with everything that she does. And so when people join the community, it's already known that like everyone's welcoming and nice. And there's not a lot of like, hey, you have to follow these rules because all this, like people would just automatically do it. And it could also be because we're community builders and we're just used to that. And we kind of fit that demographic. But I also think that like I think even if it was open to general public more too, like that people would feel safe and they would get like that it's a fun place to be and not to like bash on anyone or not to be rude or mean or things like that.
Yeah, building communities of community people is always, I feel like we get a really nice leg up because we all know how hard it is to like get people to like model this behavior. Like, yeah, I love especially dissecting communities with community people because it's like it's such a shining example of the modeling behavior that you want to see. But I do think that Rosie has fostered that over many years. So amazing work, Rosie. Thank you for generously allowing us to dissect your community setup here. We'd love to get you on for a follow-up episode to do an interview. And talk more about the evolution and kind of behind the scenes. But for everyone in Rosieland and everyone who's contributed to making this community awesome, thank you so much. You've built something really incredible. I hope that you take the spirit of this episode with the intention of generosity and curiosity that it is intended. Max and I know just how difficult it is to foster and build thriving communities. So we, by and large, absolutely love what's happening here. And we hope you take any like recommendations or feedback with the generous spirit that it's intended. So thank you for joining us. Hit subscribe to see when we dissect a new community. We have new episodes coming out every other week. And our calendar is booked up for the next couple months. So they'll be coming out.
That's awesome.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Hope to have you on again soon.